So now it is once again my great pleasure and privilege to introduce Katie Carlson. Katie was appointed to be the first Director of Wellness Initiatives for the Marion County Sheriff's Office in 2021. Previously, she served as Public Information Officer for the Sheriff, a position she assumed in 2012. Katie completed a 200-hour yoga teacher training at City Yoga in 2019. Earlier this year, she completed coursework and practice to become a certified mindfulness teacher through the Engaged Mindfulness Institute. Katie finds peace and balance through yoga practice and great joy in sharing her yoga and mindfulness practices with others in a variety of community and professional settings. Here this evening for her 21st Wednesday night presentation. Thanks again. Welcome, Katie.
Thank you so much for the introduction. Thank you for the opening practice. So I'm grateful to be here for another opportunity to present to this group. This is the 6th of 7 in a series that I call Balancing Our Energy Centers. And when I say energy centers, what I am referring to are the chakras. The word chakra is a Sanskrit word meaning wheel or circle, and the philosophy of chakras arose in early Hinduism. We are all familiar with the concept of the physical body, but the chakras refer to one's subtle or energy body. There are 7 chakras that align from the base of the spine to the crown of the head, and each of these energy centers is believed to correspond with different aspects of our being. To be honest, this chakra, the 6th, is probably the chakra I've been the most excited to discuss. In my previous presentations, I've discussed the first 5 of 7 chakras, including the root chakra, which is associated with having our basic needs met, our family and ancestral upbringings, as well as a general sense of stability and groundedness. The sacral chakra, which is associated with our relationships with others, money, sex, power, and creativity. The solar plexus chakra, which is associated with our self-confidence, self-worth, and willpower. The heart chakra, which is associated with self-compassion and giving and receiving love, and the throat chakra, which is associated with our ability to communicate effectively and to live our own truths. The Agya chakra translates to beyond wisdom, but for the rest of this presentation, I'll be referring to it as the third eye chakra. It is located in the center of your head, parallel to your eyebrows. It's associated with the pineal gland, the eyes, the head, and the lower part of our brain. It is also associated with the color indigo or dark royal blue and the ages of 36 to 42. It's possible that one of the reasons I'm so excited about this one is because I fall in that age range. The third eye chakra relates mostly to wisdom, intuition, and imagination. I dedicate a significant amount of personal practice to nurturing my third eye chakra. After all, who doesn't want more wisdom and a stronger intuition? So Albert Einstein said that the intuitive mind is a sacred gift and the rational mind is a faithful servant. We have created a society that honors the servant and has forgotten the gift. And he said this before the advent of the internet, where we are bombarded with all of the information we could ever seek, to both a positive and negative effect, and with a constant onslaught of others' opinions. Often without malice, the doctors and scientists conduct studies which inevitably produce new science-based facts, and yet different studies on the same topics can produce entirely different outcomes. Combine this with the unlimited access that we have to information offered by the internet, and you can find science-based facts to back up virtually any desired outcome. In other words, you can rationalize just about anything, but does that make it right or wrong? More important, does it make it right for you or wrong for you? And actually, just earlier today, I was going kind of back and forth with someone. They said, you know, you shouldn't, in your workouts, you shouldn't be, if you can't have a conversation for more than 10 to 20% of your workout, then you're doing it wrong, basically. If you can't, you know, that's the only part. And I'm thinking about my workout this morning that was, you know, 30 minutes and I was huffing and puffing, and it's just like, you know, whatever, maybe Troy feels differently about that, but it's like, what's it going to be? Are eggs good for us right now, or are eggs bad for us right now? Bread, so much in nutrition has really gone back and forth. And so that's what I think of the most when I think about these kinds of conflicting facts and studies. So anyway, as much as I've been saying about how excited I am to present on this topic, and as much as I say I try to nurture my own tuition, shortly before writing this presentation, I experienced quite the failure to do so. This is a little bit of a personal story, but there was a person and I was debating whether or not I should reach out to this person. I thought about it at many points during the day. I made a list of pros and cons. I even did a search of the internet and took a quiz that I found. And when I didn't like the first answer, I took it again, changed one of my responses to get the other answer. But with a thumbs up for yes, reach out, or a thumbs down for no, don't. Does anyone have any guesses what my intuition was telling me? Thumbs up for reach out or thumbs down for don't? Okay, so my intuition, if you guess no, you were right. And ultimately I didn't reach out to the person, but I wasted an awful lot of time and brain power thinking about it. So following our intuition is often referred to as trusting your gut, which got me wondering, why would intuition manifest as a feeling in your gut, which is a part of our body that's associated with the lower chakras? My conclusion is that they aren't the same thing, and that trusting your gut is a misnomer for intuition, but mostly in the sense that intuition is that and so much more. Trusting your gut is more of a matter of survival, of fight, flight, or freeze. We talk about the sympathetic nervous system enough on these calls that we can recognize that just because the body goes into a fight, flight, or freeze response, that doesn't necessarily mean that we are in actual danger, but sometimes unconsciously perceived danger. So you might get a gut feeling not to go down a dark alley, a matter of safety governed by the root chakra, or not to trust another person, a matter of relating to other people, which is governed by the sacral chakra. But as mentioned earlier, the third eye chakra does govern the lower part of the brain, where the amygdala, I have such a hard time with that word, triggers the fight, flight, and freeze response. And that's where that's located. So there's certainly a connection between the two. As we've discussed, the chakras build upon each other. And with the third eye chakra being the second to last, there is a lot of work and development that occurs before we arrive at that chakra. The components of all of the other chakras are a part of our intuition. Yes, our basic safety and survival, but also knowing ourselves, loving ourselves, knowing our truths, and then intuition. So in Webster's dictionary, intuition is defined as the power or faculty of attaining direct knowledge or cognition without evident rational thought and inference. I believe that researcher and author Brene Brown's definition comes much closer to describing the truly wondrous nature of intuition. She says, intuition is not a single way of knowing. It's our ability to hold space for uncertainty and our willingness to trust the many ways we have developed knowledge and insight, including instinct, experience, faith, and reason. So not only does her definition include the developmental nature of intuition that I was referring to earlier, but she also taps into one of the biggest reasons why I purposefully practice and nurture my own intuition, to hold space for uncertainty. Trusting our intuition isn't about what we already know. It's not about facts. It's about what we don't know. And what we don't know is infinite. So when we can hold space for uncertainty, we are holding space for the not yet known, which can be virtually anything. But for a lack of a better word, It's a certain brand of anything, a personalized brand of anything, the not yet known that is in alignment with loving ourselves and knowing our truths. So, what does this all translate to? Most simply, it's about having good ideas, being driven to create, solving problems in a way that's unique to you, having purpose, having meaning, having ambition, seeing the big picture. It's about understanding the way that your hard knocks in life are now a part of you flourishing. And it's faith that these qualities, like the unknown, are limitless, that as long as you're breathing, you have the ability to make life better for yourself and for the people that you care about. For me, staying open to the unknown and new ideas, which I sometimes call downloads when they seemingly come out of nowhere, is one of the most important aspects of my life. One other aspect of the third eye chakra is often referred to in the phrase lifting the veil, as in cutting through illusion to see things clearly. So, where the third eye chakra is focused on helping us, or where the throat chakra is focused on helping us express ourselves truthfully, the third eye chakra helps us to see the truth outside of ourselves. Often, lifting the veil has a negative connotation associated with dishonesty from an entity, a person, or an organization. But it can also include our own misconceptions, including the adage, when people show you who they are, believe them. Sometimes we want to see something other than what is right in front of us, but lifting the veil can be positive too, like lifting the veil of our separation from each other, of us versus them, or as Fleet pointed out a few weeks ago in his presentation, that we co-regulate with others whether we intend to or not. So, what practices can help bring the third eye chakra into balance? Meditation is a really big one, especially in regards to the space that it creates. Sometimes great ideas come during meditation, and I know that I can be tempted to grab my phone and jot them down, but then I convince myself that I will remember them when I'm done and bring my focus back to the object of mindfulness. Yoga, including several specific poses with focus on the third eye chakra, Tai Chi, Bates eye exercises, which we'll do shortly in our practice, all nurture the third eye. Wearing dark royal blue colors, which my yoga pants are today, or dark blue stones like lapis lazuli, which I wear almost every day, can also bring awareness and balance to the third eye chakra. Jotting down dreams, if you can remember them, is another practice for harnessing some awareness of our unconscious mind, as is spending time outdoors in nature, avoiding any devices. Another suggestion is to break out of your own routine. Watch a movie or read a book from another culture or a discipline outside of your usual preferences. Make a meal using an ingredient you've never cooked with before. Visit new places. One of the greatest opposing forces to develop our own intuition is being a stickler for your own likes and dislikes. So, one more Albert Einstein quote, but this one means so much to me, as my former swim coach used to say it often. If you do what you always did, you'll get what you always got. Ironically, and helpful to the point I was trying to make earlier in the conversation, as I looked up this quote online, it's attributed to Einstein, Henry Ford, and Tony Robbins. So maybe that's a sign that it's time to worry less about some of the facts and more about how this sentiment may be reflected in our lives. So from here, we're going to go into a seated yoga practice followed by a meditation, both focused on the third eye chakra. So we're going to start with a few eye exercises. So my recommendation, if it's comfortable, if you're okay with it, would be to remove any glasses for the first few things that we're doing here. And I would just ask you, once you find a comfortable seat, to take your eye gaze up to the top left-hand corner of the room you're in. The size of the room doesn't really matter. We're just we keep our head straight, so we're not looking up, but we keep our head straight and we take our eye gaze up to the top left corner of the room. From here, we're going to start tracing the wall of the room. So without moving our head, we're going to let our eyes gaze go from the top left corner along the top ridge of the wall over to the top right corner, down through the corner of the wall to the floor, looking across the floor as much as you can see, maybe across your desk until you get to the bottom left corner, moving your eye gaze back up to this top left-hand corner where you started. We're going to do that one more time, maybe even slower. So without moving our head, letting our eye gaze trace the wall in front of us in the room that we're in, going across the room, down, across the bottom, back up to the starting point at that top left-hand corner. We're going to close our eyes really tight here. And when we open them, we're going to start to take our eye gaze over to the top right-hand corner of the room. So we're taking our gaze to the opposite corner, and we're just going to move in the other direction. So now, without moving our head, taking our eye gaze, we'll move from the top right-hand corner of the room, looking across the wall. So we're really making these big, slow circles with our eye gaze, going down the wall, going across the floor, across our desk or table, going back up the wall until we join where we started. One more slow circle, looking over across the wall, making that line from the right corner to the left, down, looking across the floor or the table, back over to the bottom right-hand corner, and then looking back up to where we started, taking another tight, closed-eyed position, just letting our eyes close tightly. We're going to take our hands and start to rub our hands together to create heat between our palms. And when you feel some heat working in your palms, we're just going to very lightly set our palms on top of our eyes. So we let some of that heat, we're not pushing into our eyes at all. We're just letting some of that heat that we built between our palms kind of soak into our eyes, warming up maybe some of the muscles behind our eyes. And then starting to gently bring our hands back down to our lap. And if you took off your glasses, you're welcome to put those back on. I'm going to move my chair back just a little bit for this next part. So still in a comfortable position in our chair, we're going to take a couple of rounds of a seated cat-cow. So the invitation is to let your hands come to the tops of your legs. And as we start to breathe forward, we're going to let our chest come forward, and we're going to start to let our head lift up toward the ceiling without straining our neck. And then as we breathe out, we're going to start to round our back and release our chin down to our chest. So we'll inhale, bringing our chest forward, lifting our head up. We'll exhale, rounding our back, releasing our chin to our chest. One more time, inhale, bringing our chest forward, lifting our head up. Exhale, rounding our back, releasing our chin to our chest. Coming back to a neutral seated position. From here, we're going to let our hands come down by our sides, start down by our sides. We'll push our feet into the floor. And as we inhale, we'll lift our arms up overhead. And as we exhale, we're going to look at our palms as they come together. And we're going to bring our palms. Normally, we bring them to the center of our heart, but today we're just going to let them lightly rest at our forehead. As we inhale, we're going to lift our arms back up overhead. And as we exhale, we're going to fold over our legs. in whatever way feels comfortable. That might look different for everyone here. And then as we inhale, we'll slowly start to roll back up to a neutral seated position. We're going to do that 2 more times. So we start with our arms out by our sides. We'll inhale, lifting our arms up overhead, looking at our palms as they touch. As we exhale, we're going to let our thumbs come to our forehead. As we inhale, we'll lift our arms back up overhead. As we exhale, we'll start to fold forward, just folding over our legs, letting our head hang, letting our neck hang. And then inhale, slowly rolling back up to a seated position. 1 more time, bringing our arms out by our side. We'll inhale, lifting our arms up overhead, looking at our palms as they touch. As we exhale, we'll bring our hands, our thumbs to our forehead. As we inhale, we'll lift our arms back up overhead. And as we exhale, we'll fold forward over our legs, letting our head hang, letting our just top half of our body hang. And then inhale, slowly rolling back up. From here, we are going to take our right leg, if it's comfortable, and cross our right leg over the top of our left knee. So our legs are a little bit crossed, gently crossed. If there's any pain here, feel free to, cross down at your ankles or take any other version, or just, move in a way that feels comfortable. And we're just going to start to fold over our leg here. So we get a little bit of a stretch there in the back of our right thigh. And when we take any yoga pose, especially one that's still like this, we want to stay connected to our breath. So we let our head hang, we let our neck hang, and we take these deep breaths in and out. And with our next inhale, we'll start to come back up, bringing our foot down, crossing the other leg over, bringing our left ankle across the top of our right knee. We'll take an inhale here through center, and then exhale, starting to fold over our leg just as much as it feels comfortable, as much or as little, letting our head hang, letting our neck hang, feeling that little stretch in the back of the left leg, connecting with our breath. With our next inhale, we'll start to come back up. Couple more moves, then we'll start to get into our meditation practice. So with our arms out by our side, we're going to inhale and lift our arms up overhead. And as we exhale, we're going to twist to the right. So we're going to let our left hand come to the outside of our right leg. We're going to let our right hand either come to the back of our chair or the seat of our chair, whatever feels good. Just so we're bringing a nice twist. This is going to feel or look different. So finding a twist that feels comfortable, bringing it into your spine. And when you find that spot, we just want to breathe into it, taking big breaths in, big breaths out. Another round of breath. And then with our next inhale, we'll lift our arms back up overhead. And as we exhale, we're going to twist to the other side. So this time we'll take our right hand outside of our left leg. We'll bring our left hand to the base of our spine or the back of our chair, just taking that twist in the other direction. When we find a twist that feels comfortable, that feels nice, just connecting with our breath, breathing in and breathing out. Another round of breath in and out. And then coming back to center. So from here, we'll just start to shift into our meditation practice. So maybe adjusting our posture, getting in a position, a seat that feels comfortable. You have the option to keep your eyes open here, or to let your eyes close. If you keep your eyes open, I'd recommend casting your gaze away from a screen or any lights, just softening your gaze, not looking at anything in particular. Beginning like we did with this awareness of the breath in our opening practice. Just starting to notice the breath. Notice the way that the breath is moving in and out of our body. Noticing sensations of coolness or warmth that come along with each inhale or exhale. Noticing sensations of the expansion in our lungs and our rib cage with each inhale. The sensations of contraction with each exhale. Just staying here with the breath for a moment. You might notice that the mind wanders, and if it does, that's totally normal. Just bring the attention back to the breath. So the next invitation, and keep in mind that it's something you can take or leave depending on your comfort level. You can stay with the breath. But if it feels comfortable to you, with your eyes closed, shifting your eye gaze with your eyes closed so that it's up and towards the center where your third eye would be located. The eyes are muscles, and muscles need training sometimes to hold certain positions, and so it might feel a little bit awkward. Just shifting your eye gaze up with your eyes closed. Still connected to your breath. As if with our gaze and our inhale and our exhale, we're nourishing and nurturing our third eye with each inhale and exhale with this focused attention. If it feels like a strain, you can always let your eyes come back to normal. One of my favorite teachers often says, 2 eyes closed and 1 eye open. That's Michael Beckwith. So just this awareness, this sense of our third eye, even inviting in, if it's comfortable, a sense of blue light at that space, in that area. So we'll start to close this practice by taking 3 big breaths together. And the invitation is that with each inhale, we lift our shoulders up to our ears, and with each exhale, we breathe out with a sigh. So Breathing in, lifting our shoulders up. Breathing out with a sigh. 2 more times. Inhale, lifting our shoulders up to our ears, and breathing out with a sigh. Once more, inhale, bringing our shoulders up to our ears, breathing out with a sigh. If your eyes are closed, you can start to gently bring your eyes back open if it feels good to bring some movement back into your body. Please feel free to do so. And from there, I am open for any questions or comments or concerns about the presentation or any of the practices. So please share any experiences or thoughts that you have.
I found it sort of strange. It's eye-opened, with the focus on breath, that when you had us, focusing on the eye movement, that I found that I wasn't breathing. It's like holding my breath while I was focusing on what I'm doing with my eyes. It's like, gee, I found myself being very judgmental of my loss of focus on the breath while I was doing the eye work.
Well, and in a sense, focusing on that sensation and that kind of muscle movement, or that it's just shifting the point of contact. So I think there's a difference between holding our breath and focusing our breath. If we, so you can let go of attention of the breath. And in fact, I do a lot in my practice when I'm focusing there, that I'm not as concerned with the breath, but I kind of kept it together today. So I don't think that it's wrong to feel your attention shift. In fact, I think that it's a good thing that you're letting your attention rest on a different, you're just shifting your object of mindfulness, and that's what we're supposed to do.
I'm curious about people's reactions to the 2 definitions that you brought of intuition, Webster's Dictionary and Brene Brown's.
What are your thoughts?
Well, I'd like to ask if you'd be willing to read Brene Brown's definition again.
I'd be happy to. She says that intuition is not a single way of knowing. It's our ability to hold space for uncertainty and our willingness to trust the many ways we have developed knowledge and insight, including instinct, experience, faith, and reason. It's a nice one, isn't it?
Yeah, I like that. It's very comprehensive, and sometimes intuition to me seems like this mysterious thing, and yet it almost translates into wisdom. It's kind of like free floating, spontaneous insight or wisdom or intuition, kind of in the moment with all of your background. I once had a teacher talk about wisdom, and she said, there's the wisdom of a car mechanic who's worked for decades on cars, and you can just run your car in and it's making a noise, and they pick up on it, So that experience is very valid, I think sometimes intuition sounds like this mystical thing that should just appear out of the vapors, as if, and yet her definition also included all of our experience and our histories and our understandings. I like that.
Gavin De Becker wrote a book called The Gift of Fear, and I read it many, 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 many years ago. And I think that it sums up maybe it said before Brene Brown, but it expressed what you were talking about, John. And I really appreciated reading that book because it opened up my mind to what that might mean, intuition. And he was coming from a place of safety, and how intuition or instinct has been suppressed, or we've been trained to not pay attention.
I've been really fascinated, and what kind of emerged from this to me is that, you know, that lower brain, the fight, fright, and freeze kind of role that those two things play together. And, you know, when you talk about fear, you know, I think that there's a couple kind of fears, you know, and I haven't read that book, but there's like fear of your immediate safety. And then there's fear of the unknown, which I imagine he's talking about a lot. And so I think that that's what I love about, you know, this kind of intuition work, is that it starts to not quell a fear of the unknown, but maybe embrace it. I wrote that book down, though. I'm gonna check it out.
I think we are sometimes afraid to express our intuition because of the challenges from others regarding our intuition. When true intuition, we don't have the objective facts to back it up. So we tend to suppress the intuition because we don't, we've been challenged on it before and we can't explain it. We tend to feel, I look ridiculous or I look silly because I can't explain it, but intuition isn't supposed to be explained in objective terms. So we don't get in the habit of verbalizing our intuition.
Troy, I'd love your take with all of the different science and then kind of the intuition of our bodies. If you have anything to share there, how our intuition can play a role in kind of filtering through all of that, all of the studies and stuff.
Yeah, I think going back to the book that she talked about with the gift of fear, there's a lot of interesting stuff there, and Tony Blauer talks a lot about it from a again, intuition. He calls it no fear, which is KNOW. So no fear, rather than not having fear, just understanding what fear is and listening to that intuition, which again, most of us, it's not a big deal. We push it off. So very phenomenal book to read. I'm halfway through it right now. I've been reading it while I've been on break. Been referred to that by a bunch of my troopers to read, and we're trying to make it a mandatory read, possibly for the recruits coming into the academy, just because of the true understanding of intuition and getting them to understand that and not get rid of their intuition as an officer too. So very, very interesting work.
This is quite an interesting conversation with the different perspectives, and obviously each of the people who've spoken have read something or been touched by somebody. And I like what Brene Brown said, and also how John sort of encapsulated it. You know, we have a life that we're drawing upon, a life of experience. And the quote that I like came from Ram Dass, from a talk he gave, 40 years or 50 years ago. And he was just talking about similar topics that we're discussing. But he says, in the end, you have to trust your intuitive heart. In other words, there's some capacity, or what Troy was saying, like the knowing quality that we have. It's inside. It's there. We all have it. And, Ram just simplified and says, in the end, you have to trust your intuitive heart. We've all had that experience where we did something or we didn't do something, and after the fact we go, I should have done that. or I shouldn't have done that. And there was a sign, there was something that was speaking to us, and we all have that capacity. So I like that approach as well.
Yeah, thanks, Gary. And I'm wondering, Troy, is there any mention, I'm not familiar with this book, of the fear that generally there's an intelligence underneath that fear. There's a reason. It may not be as overblown as we think, but there's some thread or kernel of truth and intelligence.
It falls kind of back into, again, intuition, or just, a gut feeling / the hair on the back of your neck, it's almost everything that he will per se. And I don't want to give anything in the book because there's some really good information in there of just most people that ran into conflict or were assaulted had pre-contact cues or felt something prior to. So we have, you want to call it a sixth sense, or just that, as Gary said, was I should have done that, looking hindsight, there were something. So most cases when you back engineer or relook at something or an assault, somebody was following too close, something didn't feel right, somebody didn't sound right. There's so many of those little things that we start to brush off, and those are the things we don't want to brush off. One, maybe due to fear of confronting somebody when they're actually just following closely, or were they actually going to do something? And Tony Blauer uses that kind of analogy of what's the worst thing they're going to do. If you turn around, they're going to do one of two things. Either they were there for what? Money or your life, or two, they're just not paying attention and you just sensed something and you confronted somebody that wasn't going to do anything. So it's kind of an interesting thought on that aspect of the way Tony pushes it.
That's really interesting. It parallels so closely to an interview I saw of two training officers up in Oregon who had done a lot of mindfulness training, and they were speaking specifically about, if my attention is elsewhere, it's with my problems with my family, or, then I might miss some of these pre-assault indicators. There's indicators there. And it's when I'm paying attention or present, good environmental awareness, good awareness of what's going on internally and externally, I'm going to pick up on it.
Yep. Situational awareness, lack of sleep, lack of paying attention. So we're pushing that a ton in the academy. And I spoke on that a couple of weeks ago at the trainers conference. Was sleep is huge. We start losing our sleep and get sleep deprivation up beyond 10, 15 hours, 18 hours. Our ability to think and critically think and having our situational awareness dissipates, depth perception and cognitive ability. So you're going to miss a contact cue that you may have caught earlier. Mm-hmm. So sleep is a big one. And again, if you got stress at home, it's just adding and compounding. So I totally believe that.
Troy, I think there's a formula that equates intoxication with sleep deprivation. You may know that.
Yeah, if you're 18 hours of being awake, you're at a 0.05. If you're 24 hours awake, it's 0.10 is what it kind of equals out to be. So just because you're up early and then you have a normal 12-hour day and then 8 hours again, or 4 more hours at home, so you're up for 3, you're already at 18 hours, you're at a 0.05. And then if you get a 24-hour day of just being awake, yep, at minimum, that's where you're at. Has anybody experienced being up for 24 hours and figuring that out? I have. Whew. Yeah, crazy. Mm-hmm. Tripping over things and stumbling and brain process. Yeah, so it's just like your 0.10.
Welcome, Michael Christie. Good to see you. You've come in just at the tail end of a discussion of many things, but of intuition. Developing intuition, trusting intuition.
The discussion is about trusting your intuition.
Yeah, and even building that capacity.
Yeah.
I wanted to pose this question to Troy or anyone, and it's just because, you know, David threw the question, what about 72 hours? But where does some of the natural hormonal things like adrenaline come in, where someone is maybe fatigued, but there's an emergency and they rise to the occasion. And the only reason why I say this, my wife is a midwife, and she labors with women for an excessive long period of time. But when that birth happens, she just tunes in. Now, is she diminished? I'm not there, so I'm not able to actually pass judgment. But I know she's effective and she knows what she's supposed to do. And I'm assuming there's some shift in the body chemistry that kind of, you know, restarts the engines and saying, okay, pay attention now. Just open for comment.
I would assume something like that would happen from an adrenaline slash, I would call it, as I say it with our academy and our trainers, it's the tool in the toolbox. When you fall under so much stress, we're only going to fall back to a skill that we already have. Tony Blauer also talks about that. If you don't practice that skill under stress or have that skill in your toolbox, you're never going to have it. So as the baby's coming, she's been up for all these hours, all of a sudden, boom, there might be that little switch, but she has that mechanism built. Those that don't have that mechanism may not be able to perform well. Are they going to do everything correct? Who knows? But their probably ability to focus and, get through it with a little bit of adrenaline and norepinephrine and everything else that's going to be cranking through your system may get there. I would not want to do that study. That would be pretty tough, but I think most can kind of turn that switch, as we say, but how long can you burn that candle? Again, it's going to be more likely for a short amount of time, but then cognitively and physically, you're probably going to be hitting the end of it at that ability.
When she comes home, she's toast.
So Troy, I think you have mentioned in the past that you have that you'll put your troopers under stress and have them perform. And I think that's what you're talking to, that yeah, I can relate in terms of performance. Like you can rehearse, and Sandy knows well, and anybody who's performed music, Kimball, you can rehearse and practice and practice. You can get it down, so you got it. And then you go up on stage in front of people, it's just a whole new ballgame. And then you have to learn that, right? Because you got to be under that stress, and then you go up another level. And yeah, there is really no substitute for training under stress, or having to do it when when you got to do it. So it sounds like in your training at the academy that you are purposefully, creating those scenarios, even though it's not real life scenario.
Yeah, I'm doing it from a physiological perspective and a fitness, as we do our what we call BCOP, our basic concepts of policing. We crawl, walk, run, and we will slowly add levels to them. So you're going to crawl in a basic scenario, and then we're going to add more stress, 2 violators in a car, 3 violators in a car, gun in a car, so on and so forth. So we start to add stress to them and then see how they react under stress. And then some of them may be wearing masks, and then you're coming up now with some munition weapons. So now things can exponentially add up, and then we see what happens under stress. And then at the end of that scenario, we can debrief, go over some things, figure out where there may have been a cognitive issue, meaning they did not do the drill correctly or they skipped something. That's where the instructors are oversight and overseeing that. And we keep doing reps that way. So they're getting more repetition. So they have that baseline of data. And as we step the progressions up, they're in a non-real world situation because everything is safer. But now we're in a current situation where they're in the field training, and now they're on the road doing real police work. So they've graduated the academy, and now they're doing 14 weeks of pulling over cars and doing everything they did as scenarios in the academy.
Excellent work. I just want to have one comment, Troy, around that. And I think that, you know, for all of us, we encounter stressful situations or things, right? Stuff happens. We're human beings, and we encounter new experiences that we haven't encountered before. And we're not always going to rise to the occasion. We're not always going to do the right thing. And I think we can give ourselves a break. You know, the first time we cross that threshold of entering into an environment, a situation that is devastating, or it's a loss, or it's some kind of heavy stressor on us, I think we can give ourselves a little bit of room to not be perfect.
Well, I think that this is kind of the point where what Katie was talking about, as far as giving the space to practice, to develop intuition and everything. I think that this is that point that you know, it all comes together. And so when there is that stressing out, there's a, you know, the stressing out and or just the space that's allowed. So within that space, you're able to notice something.
And have
So just-
trust,
Go ahead, Katie.
and be able to trust what you're noticing.
I just had a quick clarification question, tracking from my own mind that I got. Are we still responding to Gary's question, or did we shift to something else? We don't know. Okay.
Michael, the floor is
No,
open. Whatever you'd like to say.
No. I was trying to track that if it was all connected to Gary's. I love your question. What happens when we are sleep deprived, which is a real thing, and that affects our bioinfrastructure, that we still seem to find the energy to do the work that we need to do. And I'm imagining that there's a part of us that gets energized by purpose and by things that we are really connected to and value. That I think that in itself probably give us a boost of adrenaline to rejoice and to celebrate. And maybe it's similar to the mother having superpower when the car falls on our child, and somehow she's able to kind of pick that up. In the moment where the work that you value, even though it's exhausting, when you're actually delivering the work and you're seeing the impact, you're literally seeing the birth of your work. That's energizing. That just really overrides whatever the body is feeling in that moment, to kind of be present and to witness that birthing, so to speak. I am lately been a lousy sleeper, so thank you, Troy, for bringing up those points. Really trying to get my sleep schedule consistent. But I know when I go into the prison, and I'm speaking to the men, and I feel like I am contributing something to their lives, to their transformation, and I see their eyes light up, and I see the brain twerking. I mean, I'm energized in that moment, no matter how tired I am. After that, I might collapse or go in my chair and fall asleep. But in that moment, I am full of energy. I am with it. There is no concept of being tired in that moment. When I'm giving birth, so to speak, or helping to give birth to the thing that I think is important and has value to myself and to other human beings. So I'm imagining that that's probably part of what happens with your wife in the moment that she's doing what she enjoys to do, which is to bring another life into this world, which is pretty profound and beautiful and powerful. And then I have one thing else. Sorry, I'm a preacher and a Baptist preacher at that, so we know how to talk. In terms of intuition and just thinking, I've been really reconnected lately to heart math. Are you guys familiar with heart math? And I've integrated it more into my meditation practice. And one of the things that intrigued me, kind of drew me back to it, was how much it kind of cultivates intuition. Like part of what happens, some of the signs of heart math is that our heart cohesion, or heart focus, is that it actually helps you to develop more intuition, to kind of have a better sense of it, more clarity about it. It's some of them argue that it's an intuition tool. It's a meditation practice that literally, that's one of the byproducts of it, is that it develops your, that's not what, well, that was partly why I did it, but I enjoyed the science behind heart math. And so I kind of got really intrigued by that and started saying, you know what, that makes sense. And they talk about there's more cohesion in the coming from your heart and from your head. So in terms of our meditation, so I'm like, well, that makes sense that we're focused on our heart more than focusing on our heads and our thoughts. So anyway, as a tool to cultivate what I call discernment sometimes, or as some of you have mentioned, intuition. I'm really enjoying that. And Fleet said something, training I went to in Toronto, said something about how the focusing on, and some practices, some people are really attracted to breath work because focusing on the exhale is another way that increases people get hooked on that. They feel like they're more intuitive when they do that kind of work. But he cautions that to do it just to get to that place can be dangerous, because you can really get into trouble, with that. So thanks for listening. I'm complete.
Great. Thanks, Michael. I think it's probably time for us to wrap up. But we have some great resources. Robert, if you're willing to get those into our next notification, we've got a book or two. We've got heart math to look at. And thank you again, Katie.
I've been taking notes. If I appeared distracted, it's because I was taking notes like crazy. And probably get back with Katie on a couple of her quotes and references, and maybe some of the rest of you as well. But very good, Katie. Very, very nice evening. And appreciate all the contributions, and see all these wonderful people in our community. Differ every night, and that's one of the nice things about it too.
All these eager young faces. It's always a pleasure. Thank you, everybody. It's great to see you all. Take good care.
Well,
thanks again, Katie.